5 original designer and niche fragrances and 10 of their cheaper clones and alternatives. Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and it's also time for another episode of 5 original designer and niche fragrances and 10 of their cheaper clones and alternatives. And for today's video I'm going to start with a very fresh, very masculine, very classy smelling fragrance. And the original one that I'm talking about comes from the brand of Giorgio Armani, and it's called Acqua di Profumo. And the two alternatives that I've prepared for you in today's video are: the first one comes from the brand of Maison Alhambra, and it's called Jorge di Profumo. And this was probably the first clone of Acqua di Profumo that I added to my collection, and it's the cheapest one that I have in my collection. It smells pretty similar to the original fragrance, also smells pretty similar to the OG Acqua di as well. You're getting that fresh, slightly aquatic, masculine fragrance that has a bit of darkness just like the original one. But the one thing that this misses compared to the original is the actual note of incense. Now this has a hint of that incense which adds darkness to the whole scent of the original Acqua di Profumo, but it's not as strong as you get with the OG, especially the earlier formulations of Acqua di Profumo. But other than that, actually smells pretty similar to both the Acqua di and Acqua di Profumo. It's a very decent alternative to both of them, with a very low price. Performance is about moderate, I would say, about average. You should not expect wonders out of this fragrance, but again, the quality is good and it's a very cheap scent. The second one that I've prepared for today's video actually has a lot higher quality, but it also is quite a bit more expensive. It comes from the brand of Armani Prestige, and it's called Rayhaan Luxury Edition. This one gets closer to the original fragrance, especially after some maceration. Initially, this also kind of missed the mark when it comes to that incense note, but with a bit of time, a bit of maceration, I've had this for a few months now in my collection. This actually has become quite close to the original scent. Still doesn't feel exactly as dark as the OG, but definitely feels like a better and closer alternative compared to Jorge di Profumo. But again, this costs probably at least twice as much as the one from Maison Alhambra. But at the same time, keep in mind that with this particular fragrance, you're also getting a 180 ml bottle size. You get very good quality, just like with everything else from Armani Prestige. You get a pressurized sprayer, and I think this is the better option, but again, it's the one that's more expensive. The next original fragrance that I've prepared two alternatives for comes from the brand of Hugo Boss. It's part of the bottled line, and it's called Hugo Boss Bottled Intense EDP. The first one that I've prepared comes from the brand of Volare. It's a relatively new sub-brand of Lattafa, again another clone sub-brand of Lattafa, and it's part of the Reload series, and it's called Reload Intense for Men. The whole line, Reload line, I think it has 6 members, and all of them are Hugo Boss clones. This one is a clone of the original, Hugo Boss Bottled Intense EDP. Smells quite similar to the original one, although to my nose this feels a little bit more airy, lacks a bit of the spiciness, the strength of the cinnamon note of the original fragrance, and also lacks just a bit of the sweetness of the original. But other than that, actually smells quite close, especially in the air. Very decent quality, performance is decent, and the price is around about 25 euros here in Europe, so roughly around about $30. And at that price point, I think it's not a bad deal. The next one that I've prepared, the next alternative, comes from the brand of Fragrance World, but it's actually sold under Artur Al Alam, which is supposedly their cheaper sub-brand, although prices nowadays seems to be quite equal between Artur Al Alam and Fragrance World. And the fragrance itself is called Nazih Silver, and actually I really like this one. I think this is a very nice little gem from Fragrance World and Artur Al Alam. This to my nose feels closer to the original one compared to the Volare fragrance. This feels a little bit stronger on the cinnamon note. It feels having a little bit more sweetness, a little bit more pronounced apple note. All around this smells very, very pleasant, very similar to the original fragrance. And I really like Nazik Silver. Now with both of them, performance is about average. I would say they last for around about 6, maybe up to maximum of 7 hours. But the one from Tour Al Alam actually projects a little bit better. Price wise, they're pretty equal, around about 20 something euros, so close to the $30 mark. But if I have to choose one between the two, I will go with Nazik Silver from Tour Al Alam. The next original fragrance that I've prepared two alternatives or clones for comes from the brand of Parfums de Marly, and it's called Layton Exclusif. It's the flanker to the original Layton. The first one comes from the brand of Al Haramain, and it's part of the Detour line, and it's called Detour Noir Exclusive. Now this fragrance I think it was launched about a year ago, maybe even over a year ago, but I actually got my hands on a bottle of Detour Noir Exclusive just a couple of weeks ago. It was pretty slow at showing up at our markets here, and I was really looking forward to trying this one because this was hyped as a very good clone of of Layton Exclusive. And to be honest, I kind of feel a little bit disappointed by this fragrance. Not that because it's a bad fragrance on its own, but actually it doesn't smell to my nose super close to Layton Exclusive. This feels slightly less spicy, it feels slightly less woody than Layton Exclusive. This feels a little bit more balsamic, maybe a little bit sweeter than Layton Exclusive. And I've always found the charm of Layton Exclusive being in that added darkness, that added spiciness compared to the OG Layton. And that's where actually I think Detour Noir actually misses the mark a little bit. Not a bad fragrance on its own, just doesn't smell super close to the OG Layton Exclusive. Quality other than that is good. My bottle at least has a pressurized sprayer. It lasts for a good amount of time. Cannot touch the original one for performance, but still it's an easily strong enough to be considered a good performing fragrance. And I personally got it for around about 25 euros, and I think at that price point it's not a bad deal. The next one, the next alternative that I've prepared for you again comes from the brand of Tour Al Alam, just like Nazik Silver, and it's called Anakit. And actually, to my nose, this smells closer to the OG Layton Exclusive. This has a bit more spiciness, it has a bit more woodiness, a bit more of that floral touch that you'll find in the original fragrance. And all around, I think this just smells closer to Layton Exclusive than Detour Noir. Now, keep in mind that I've had this bottle for a long time now, so it has had time to develop enough. But I think this just smells closer to Layton Exclusive than the offering from Al Haramain. Price wise, it's around about the same price, something like 20 something euros, so close to the $30 mark. One thing I have to mention though, that at least from my testing so far, Detour Noir Exclusive actually seems to be a little bit better performing than Anakit, but overall I personally prefer the scent on Anakit. The next original fragrance that I've prepared two alternatives for is a very hyped up niche fragrance at the moment. It comes from the brand of Maison Crivelli, and it's called Oud Maracuja or Oud Maracuja. It's a very nice fragrance. I really like the original one. It smells very Middle Eastern. It has a lot of leather, a lot of agar oud, a lot of ambery sweetness. You get a bit of fruitiness, a bit of incense. It's a very nice scent. I really like it a lot again. And it smells also very similar to another very popular designer fragrance, which is Ombre Nomade from the brand of Louis Vuitton. But the original one, the original Oud Maracuja, is quite an expensive fragrance, and it only comes in a 50 milliliter bottle size. So let me give you two alternatives for that one. The first is a relatively new one. It comes from the brand of Zimaya, and it's called Itcan Gold. Now keep in mind that my bottle has a bit of a defect because the cap comes off with the collar that's supposedly there to keep the cap in place. But the scent itself, this one smells, actually to my nose, it smells a little bit closer to to Ombre Nomade than it does to Oud Maracuja. First of all, it misses a little bit of that sort of an passion fruit opening. This has a slightly different fruitiness in the opening, and the way that this is different is by the way that the leather note comes across in here. But again, the original fragrance from Maison Crivelli smells very similar to Louis Vuitton, so maybe that's not a bad thing that this feels like a mix between Ombre Nomade and Oud Maracuja. Other than that, you'll get the agar oud, you'll get the leather, you'll get the rose, you'll get the incense, the fruitiness. It smells pretty nice, pretty pleasant in the air. Maybe feeling slightly more feminine, like compared to the original one. It has an interesting bottle design, the scent has good quality, the performance is decent, nothing spectacular, but still it's quite a good performing scent. And the price is around about, again, somewhere between 22, 23, 25 euros, so it's not a bad deal considering how expensive the original one is. But the other alternative that I'm going to give you is feeling just of higher quality, just feels and smells better compared to the one from Zimaya, and just smells closer to the original one. But it's also pretty much twice the price of It Can't Gold. It comes of course from the brand of French Avenue and Fragrance World, and it's called Xerjoff Oud or Xerjoff Oud. And this definitely smells way closer to the original one than It Can't Gold. This captures very nicely the opening, that interesting mix of the agar oud, the rose, the leather, the passion fruit, which gives off sort of this gasoline vibes to a lot of people, and I do admit that it has a bit of that gasoline smell in the opening, but I actually kind of like it. So this gets pretty close to the original one. Also, it has way better performance, it's a pretty beastly performing scent, lasts for a very long time, projects really nicely, but again keep in mind that it usually, at least around here, this costs double the price of It Can't Gold. If I have to choose one simply based on the quality, the performance and the closeness to the original one, I'll definitely say that Xerjoff Oud is closer. And let's move on to the last original fragrance in today's video that I'm going to give you two alternatives for, and it's none other than what's been selected by Fragrantica viewers and readers as the best masculine fragrance of 2024. Of course, I'm talking about Parfum de Marly's Altair. The original one is a very nice, very vanilla forward fragrance that has a lot of cinnamon, it has a bit of a floral touch thanks to an orange blossom note, it has a lot of ambroxan. It's a very easy to like, very easy to wear, sweet fragrance that works great in cold weather, it has very good performance, and it's a compliment magnet. So let me give you two alternatives for, because the original one being manufactured by Parfums de Marly, it's an expensive scent. The first one comes from the brand of Lattafa, and it's called Art of Nature 2. It's one of the recent Lattafa fragrances that are released under their Pride line, and this one is a very nice take on the scent of Altair. Smells very similar to the original one, especially in the air, but this just feels a little bit different. First of all, it lacks a bit of the strength of the cinnamon note compared to the original one, also lacks a bit of the strength of the vanillic note compared to the original one. This has a bit of a fruity touch to it, which adds a slightly different layer to the whole scent. Also lacks a bit of the floral touch from that orange blossom note, but on the dry down you'll get quite a bit of vanilla, you'll get lots of ambroxan, and on the dry down smells pretty similar to the original fragrance from Parfums de Marly, and in the air also smells pretty similar. It has a very good quality, performance is good, it's a strong scent, projects nicely, and it's a little bit more expensive, but again you get good quality and performance in return. But the one that actually feels closer to the original one compared to Art of Nature 2 again comes from the brand of French Avenue, and it's probably the most hyped up cologne or Middle Eastern fragrance at the moment, and of course it's called Liquid Brune. It's from the same line of fragrances like Xerjoff Oud, and this one just smells closer to to Altair compared to Art of Nature 2. It captures better the opening of Altair with a strong cinnamon note, with a strong vanilla note, with that floral touch somewhere in the background, and in fact this may even feel a little bit more spicy in the opening compared to Altair, which Altair feels slightly sweeter and a little bit softer, but definitely this one feels closer and more true to the opening of Altair compared to Art of Nature 2. The dry down is very similar to Altair, performance is great, it's even better than the Lattafa one, projects better than the Lattafa one, and price wise they're pretty similar to each other, at least around here. So if I have to choose one fragrance out of the two, for me the one to choose will be Liquid Brune. And so guys, in today's video I talked about 5 original designer and niche scents, and I showed you 10 of their cheaper clones and alternatives. I hope that you found this video interesting or useful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.